Thank you for joining us. This is another episode, exciting episode of Tech Talk with Dr. Farah. Today, we are going to focus on tourism and hospitality. My first guest is from Malaysia. So let me invite my first guest.
Hello.
Welcome, Professor Nithya, all the way from Malaysia. How are you doing today?
I'm fine. Doing
Great.
well. Thank you so much for inviting me.
It's our honor. So let me introduce Professor Nithya. Professor Nithya is Executive Dean of the Faculty of Hospitality, Food Studies and Leisure Management. They're at Taylor's University, Malaysia. And I believe that, and of course, as we all know, that tourism is one of the core activities of Malaysia, and this is like billions-dollar revenue that Malaysian, of course, economy gets from tourism. So, Professor Neethiah, my first question to you is that we all understand that Malaysia is a tourist destination. And in the context of COVID-19, the way the whole world has gone into this lockdown, and of course, tourism has also kind of it also got locked down. So how is your industry, tourism industry, hospitality industry, is taking care of this pandemic? Over to you, Professor Neethiah.
Thank you so much, Dr. Farah, for inviting me. I truly thank you for this session. Just to go down to the topic very quickly, in order to appreciate this entire impact of COVID-19 onto the tourism industry, maybe I just take you through a very quick analysis of what was the scenario pre-COVID, what happened before COVID was hitting everybody. So we are talking about the tourism performance back in up to December 2019. I guess many people know that tourism is one of the biggest source of revenue for many countries. It contributes about $20 trillion to the GDP. Tourist arrival at that time, up to December 2019, was at 1.46 billion people traveling around the world. It's a huge number. And in every 10 jobs, one job is in travel and tourism. 24% of the market share is in Asia Pacific. 30% of global tourism income resides in the Asia and the Pacific as well. Tourism spending was concentrated on 4 major markets. One is, of course, China, US, German, and the United Kingdom. These 4 countries alone contributes about 40% of the market share and spending of the travel and tourism trade. In terms of forecast, by 2030, it is forecast that tourism will hit about 1.8 billion travelers around the world. 500 will travel in Asia and the Pacific. And I'm just giving you a picture of how big this industry is before COVID. And the 3 major factors for the growth of tourism, one is air transportation. Since today, air companies have actually eased travel due to lower air tickets, regular flights, and ease of connectivity and all that. This has actually helped people to travel. The second one is on visa facilitation. 50% of countries have actually relaxed visa around the world for people to travel. And in the recent past, China, the major source of tourism today, the major market for tourism today, we find that there are about 70 countries has immediately released them or relaxed the travel restriction on China market. So this actually recognizes how big the market is. Right? In Malaysia, the third factor is, of course, technology. Is what you call the invention of mobile apps, technology, and all this. This allows for easy travel, decision making, easy to travel just by clicking your handphones and all that. So these are the 3 major reasons. In Malaysia, the tourism has been one of the biggest sector in the economy. It's the second largest sector. We hit 26 million tourists last year. It's a big amount. Our population is 30 million. We hit at about 26 million tourists last year. The tourism receipts or tourism income for Malaysia was 86 billion, which is about 21 billion in US dollar. The main contributors are Singapore, China, and Indonesia. The largest contribution of tourism income to Malaysia comes from short haul market, where you travel about less than 3 hours within the region. And in terms of employment, it contributes about 25% of total employment, and 4 million people were employed in a labor market in Malaysia of about 15 million people who are working. So we are definitely smaller than the context of Pakistan. So you need to appreciate the numbers in a more smaller size, right? So this was so bright right up to December 2019. Then we were suddenly hit by an unknown disease in the beginning, and today it's called COVID-19 or the coronavirus. And I guess this is one of the biggest impact on the economy of any country. I think it's bigger than the Asian financial crisis. It's even bigger than the Great Depression in the US and all that. And the impact is so bad that UNWTO, the United Nations World Tourism Organization, has actually projected that travel and tourism will drop by 30%. Basically, this translates to us going back to 5 to 7 years of the tourism numbers worldwide. So you need to restart or reset again tourism, because the impact in this last few months has been so bad. Yeah, tourism income has dropped tremendously. The income has dropped by 500 billion. Asia Pacific alone, we dropped by 100 billion. So it is huge in terms of numbers. Yeah, and it translates into job losses, businesses closed, and many more social and economic impact of tourism. Similarly, this is also translated in Malaysia, because we are so dependent on tourism. The hotel occupancy today is very low. It's only 5 to 9%. Yeah, from a good occupancy of before COVID was about 70 to 80%. Jobs has we are projecting that in Malaysia currently we are at about 3.9% unemployment rate. It may go up to about 13% by this year, and basically a loss of about 2 million jobs. So from a labor market of 15 million, we probably have 2 million jobs, 2 million people unemployed, and it's a huge amount if you take 2 million out of 15 million. And this is the impact. The impact is on the social dimension, the economic dimension, and of course this then hits into all the other dimensions of political dimensions and all.
Yeah,
I guess I will.
So thank you for sharing these statistics, because they're really mind-boggling. That things were going so great, and then COVID-19 comes in. So Professor Nithya, my next question to you is then this is like a great volume of destruction, especially in a country which is heavily dependent upon tourism, and this is part of its social fabric as well. So how do you see Malaysian government, Malaysian people coming together and solving this problem? I'm not saying solving this problem, but at least preparing themselves, for this problem. A quick comment from you.
Yeah, it's actually a very difficult question. In fact, I attend quite a number of meetings, dialogues, and all that with the industry to actually understand what exactly is happening. We need to appreciate that this is the first industry that was hit by COVID-19. The first thing that happened was, just now I mentioned three things. Air transportation. Today it is at a halt, completely ground zero. Visa facilitation that facilitates travel Today, every country has actually put in travel restrictions, right? In any way, in all ways. I mean, Malaysia has stopped people from traveling in. I guess in many other countries this has happened as well. So no one is traveling, and it is also projected that this industry will be the last industry to recover. And the most fearful thing about this is we don't know what we don't know. We don't know how fast it's going to recover. There are views that it may recover in 6 months. There are views that it may recover in 18 months. There are views. Harvard has come up with a research to say that social distancing will be as long as until 2022. So all this leads to uncertainty. All this leads to us trying to figure out what to do. So the situation is so uncertain that we need to of course find a way to bounce back very quickly, but also to look at how to reset the industry and start the industry in a new way. Yeah.
That's interesting. And again, this is something which is an unknown phenomenon. We did not know. So let me bring my second guest here with us today. My second guest is all the way from Baltistan, Divistan. And the interesting thing is that she is sitting at such a beautiful place and enjoying the weather. Welcome on board, Sarwat. How are you doing?
I'm good, Dr. Farah. How are you? Thank you for
I'm
inviting me.
good. Thank you. So Sarwat is GM of Serena North, Pakistan, and she's taking care of three of the resorts, three of the hotels of Serena. They're up in North. Interestingly, Professor Nithya, you must be knowing something about Pakistan as well. So Pakistan was just about to kick off its tourism. So for the last 1 year or so, there was a lot of focus on tourism and hospitality from the government sector as well. The policies were coming up, and then Corona happened. So now my question to Sarwat is that, Sarwat, we were not doing that great in terms of tourism. We were trying to attract people here in Pakistan. And so what would be your expert opinion as much as you've been in the industry for quite a long time now? So how will Pakistan manage the situation? Nobody knows, by the way, how to manage it. As Professor India said that we're still struggling and trying to understand. So how will we manage the situation here in Pakistan? Over to Sarwat.
Dr. Farah, as you know that Dr. Professor Nithya also mentioned that Pakistan was just coming up, and that's very true. We had just gone on the radar of tourism, but we have nominated as the best adventure destination by British Backpacker Society. We have made it to the Forbes list for most sought after destination, and we have also topped the Condé Nast list as the best holiday destination. So basically, Pakistan has gone on the international radar, and we have to understand that. This disease has changed the entire scene that we had. We have to, before this pandemic happened, we had about 50 million domestic tourists and about 2 million international tourists. Now that market is not there anymore, but it's up to us how we get it back. The COVID-19 has changed the total way we were doing the business before. Now we have to ensure that when the guest comes, when the tourist comes, they are at ease. They have the confidence in us that we are going to provide them the hygienic, sanitized, clean environment, and they'll be able to, enjoy their stays and their going around the destinations. We at Serena Hotels had actually already implemented the COVID-19 protocols, quite a few of them, in March, and we had made a video of it and we had circulated it to our guests so that they are easy and they know that we are doing everything that is possible for them. And we are still debating. We are still, debating amongst ourselves what else can we do. And Pakistan has just made it to the list. Being human beings, we are so used to a certain way of life. We like to travel. We like to see places. As a human being, we are inbuilt with this instinct for exploring. And Pakistan is actually, I think, is better off because it was not explored. It's a new place. And everyone wants to see the three highest mountain ranges. Everyone wants to see the second highest plateau. The Indus civilization is the world famous thing. Harappa, Mohenjo-daro, the oldest civilizations in Pakistan. These are all the things that are going to attract the people. You cannot hold people for a long time in their home. They are going to come out. They need a break. They will need this break. They will need to travel. They will need to, take a break from everything that is around them. It's up to hospitality industry, it's up to the travel industry. How soon can they give that confidence back to the people that it's okay, it's safe to travel? Like professor said that, it's not going anywhere till probably 2022. So, I mean, you cannot hold people in their houses till 2022. They will need to. And if the hospitality industry, if the travel industry can give them this confidence, I think we'll bounce back much sooner than expected. We just have to play our cards right and give people that confidence.
So
And,
this is a very
and
interesting discussion. Yeah. Sarwat, would you like to add anything? Yeah.
yeah, I just want to add one more thing. In Pakistan, there's another thing. I mean, we are a small country. Our road travel is more accessible now. Our road structure is much better now. People are not going to be traveling by plane much, but since we had about 50 uh, people, domestic travelers who are going to come here by road. And adventure tourism does not need social distancing. So that is going to revive back as soon as possible too. So I'm very hopeful. I think we are very hopeful that we will see the turnaround of this industry. Maybe not, immediately, but within 6 months, it will revive back. You cannot hold people in their homes forever. They need a.
Mhm. So interesting aspect, as I've understood so far, is that especially in terms of hospitality industry, tourism industry, we have also segments. And what Sarwat is saying that for adventure tourism, social distancing is not that a big problem. In any case, you travel in small groups and you travel within your own groups. So perhaps that might come back. In terms of another thing that Sarwat I'm appreciating, I'm trying to understand as well, that so in domestically, if you have a better travel system, and if you are not flying by air, then perhaps it would, then the industry revival will be much easier. So, which means that at the local level, you have to increase the confidence amongst people that the traveling is safe and proper sanitization and proper system is in place. And then same goes for all those hotels and restaurants which are there at the tourist destination. Interesting. Over to Professor Nithya. So we do understand that we don't have the solution at the moment, and these are very unusual times. And in most of the industry, people are saying that there will be new normal. And as Sarwat is also saying that perhaps we have to think very innovatively that how can we bring confidence back in this industry, of the consumers, of the tourists. So, is there any discussion going on in Malaysia that what would be the new normal of tourism when we think of there in Malaysia? Over to you, Professor.
Yeah, thank you. It's very interesting to listen to what Sarwat has to say about the statistics in Pakistan. You have a reverse numbers as Malaysia. You are 15 million domestic travelers, 2 million international. We are 26 million international travelers, and we are dependent on the international tourist market. And domestic tourism is a very small market in Malaysia. And just looking at these two statistics, there is a possibility that if I may just predict, I think your tourism industry in Pakistan will probably bounce back faster than the one in Malaysia, because we are projecting that domestic tourism will be the first one to actually revive. People will still have fear to travel abroad. Countries will still impose restrictions, border restrictions, and all sort of restrictions, visa restrictions, and they will still impose that. But what the government of respective countries will be doing is to actually push for domestic tourism to happen, because that is perceived as a safer option of traveling. And this, the way I look at it, I think will favor the Pakistan tourism industry very well. Just a perspective from me listening to what Sarwat has to say. My thoughts about the new normal, as we see countries slowly easing travel restrictions, they are also trying to end lockdown because you can't keep people as long as you want. The new normal will include many standards and protocols that we need to follow. So so tourism will have a very different way of traveling in the future, at least until a new vaccine is found. Currently, we are all unable to predict because there's no vaccine. I think once vaccine is found and this is solved medically or health-wise, then we will all go back to normal. For as long as a vaccine is not found, I think fear for traveling is still there. Social distancing will still be practiced by many countries. Cleanliness will become a key element for travel consideration. Yeah, and as we see safety and responsible travel will be the key idea of at least this middle term between now, when restrictions are slowly eased, to when we find a solution to this pandemic. Okay, so I just give a very quick idea about what a new normal will look like. A new normal will include checking in using digital technology, because people don't want to touch each other anymore due to the nature of this disease. So digital technology become important. Hand sanitizers will be made available in many places. People will be required to wear masks. Temperatures will be checked. People will be asked to use the stairs rather than using the lift, because it defies social distancing. All this, and then airlines will have their new regulations to travel in their airplane. Cruise will have their regulation as to how you need to behave. So traveling is not going to be so easy, because you will have to start wearing masks and doing a lot of things that you don't do before in many parts of the world. But you can still perhaps travel if the country guarantees you safety and a way of responsible traveling. So maybe I'll just stop. There.
Yeah. So you have mentioned a few items which will be perhaps the ecosystem of the new normal. Sarwat, would you like to add anything in the list of the new normal?
Yeah, I would like to add that hotels being a social entity, it's a very difficult task for us. Distancing, and like Professor said, that we will need to have we need to go digital, and we are working on it, and check-in and check-outs making digital is a very thing to do. But other than that, there's so many things where the human touch is involved, and for that you have to train and educate yourself to ensure that you have to do this, but with social distancing in place. And it's much easier for the corporate sector to go digital, but for the tourist sector, the human touch is always going to be there. We cannot really get rid of it totally, because tourism is all about being social and
People.
being in touch with the other human beings. So it's a very tough task for us. Before, our industry was just working on responsible, uh, eco-friendly tourism, but now we have to work on social distancing tourism, and we are all working on it. And inshallah, I hope and I pray that we will be able to give that confidence to the guest, going digital, in providing them, a mask is a mandatory thing, and Gilgit Baltistan has made it mandatory. They're going to put a fine if you don't put on the mask, and this is what the entire world is going to look like. So the have to be prepared for this. They have to be trained for this, and the entire hospitality industry has to be on board to make sure that when the guest comes to you, the guest comes with the confidence that you and you'll take care of them, and this disease is not going to go away. We have to remember that in 1918, when the Spanish flu came, diseases have not gone, whatever we're experiencing now is going to set in for the future to come.
Yeah.
And we have to start living, and we have to start making protocols according to that, so that this is as just a thing which is going to continue. And have to ensure that we revive back, we bounce back, we give the same confidence, keeping in view what the world is going to look like today and tomorrow. So
True,
that's
true.
say.
Right. So let me now bring another variable in our discussion. So, of course, if you are an established hotel or if you are an established chain, you have processes laid down. You can train people. But what about those, smaller hotels? What about those smaller restaurants? Which are very much depending upon the traffic of the tourists. And I'm sure the same. So in Malaysia, you have like very well established chains, but then there is a whole ecosystem of smaller chains or the individuals who were quite depending upon tourism. So, what would be your advice to those because they have to survive this time? They were running their businesses. Can they switch to some other businesses? Or so, what is the discussion which is happening there in Malaysia to safeguard these relatively smaller players of the industry? Over to Professor Nitya.
Yes, maybe I'll give a perspective to the present situation in the country. The government decided to implement a movement control order called MCO since 18th of March, and it's still in place. Although now we have more control movement order, which more flexibility is given. However, restrictions are still imposed to movement of people and opening of businesses. For the last almost 2 months, coming up to 2 months, while it has helped uh, flatten the curve in Malaysia, which is a very good thing. At the same time, it has also had a negative impact on the economy of the country. The economy almost crumbled because businesses could not operate for these last 2 months. Uh, those who are self-employed have no income for 2 months. Small businesses are the biggest one that's been impacted because of this. And what the government has done, thankfully, is to actually provide stimulus packages to help the businesses to retain for at least temporarily for this month, because the biggest cost of any business is your manpower, your rental, and these few items. And if these businesses are impacted, people will lose their job. So what the government has done in Malaysia is to actually provide a stimulus package where it helps. In the first, it has given out a couple of tranche, couple of packages, 3 packages, if I'm not mistaken. However, the recent one was, I think, the most effective one, which was actually given to the small and medium enterprises. It is trying to help the small and medium enterprises to revive its business, giving it some kind of subsidy where they can actually maintain its operating costs. For any businesses, we know, and I'm sure you know better than me, that the the only way to do now, because business is so restricted, travel is restricted, and all that, is to make sure you take care of your cash flow, and you try to if you can just manage your P&L as much as you can. So as long as you can take care of cash flow, survive for a couple of months, once the pandemic is over, then you can revive back. So this is what is happening in the country. Having
Right.
said all that, the impact is still there. I mean, as I said, we are
Right.
projecting to have 2 million people to lose their jobs and all that.
All right. So let me take a question from the audience here. So I am flashing it on the screen. So as this is written that in the KP, so KP is our up north, one of the provinces there in up north. So it was taken some initiatives to revive tourism, as Sarwat was also saying. But then this has happened. So Sarwat, first I'll go to you, and then I'll go to Professor Nitya to take the answer of this question. So in this new normal, if I have to ask you, that what would be your suggestion so that we can somehow help our tourism industry. And of course we have to play within this new normal, within this new constraint that we have. So what would be your answer, Sarwat? Over to you.
I would say that, listen, we have to provide that confidence, which means that Pakistan, as you know, is not traditionally very keen on hygiene or anything like that. If you want your industry to revive, the first thing is that you have to train your smaller hotels, your smaller restaurants, and people around there so that they are trained to handle the new normal. They have to learn to do that. And once you have done that, only then you can revive this industry back into what it was. I mean, someone was putting this question to me in GB as well just a while ago. About 2 or 3 days ago, they were telling me that, all our chai kukawalas and all our smaller restaurants, what will they do? How will they survive? I told them that the only thing that can make them survive is extensive training. Once you train, because you see, we have got 50 million people who want to travel. We are not going to get hit so hard as other countries who are depending on international tourism. We are mostly dependent on domestic tourism. So if we can give the confidence and we have the proper training in place, and we are completely hygienic, and we know how to sanitize, and we know how to do everything else, this industry will revive back soon, much sooner than other countries.
All right. Professor Nithya, any advice from your side to us?
I'm not very familiar with the context in Pakistan, but I guess what is important is the role of public and private sectors now becomes very important. We must see how public sector actually comes in to support the private sector, and we are very mindful that the small and medium industries are the biggest one that's been hit. So what can the government do? Of course, the government is doing a lot of things in terms of containing the disease. Okay, that's fine. However, if you can save life through your medical solutions, if people can't find their bread and butter, eventually it will also have another impact on people's livelihood and all that. So how can the government play its role in helping small and medium enterprises? That is a very important element here to make the businesses survive. Some form of facilitation must be given, some form of ease of business. If you can't give money, then maybe you make the regulation more easy for people. Don't make it too bureaucratic, don't make it too regularized, and make it difficult like a normal condition. We live differently in a normal condition. Today we are completely in a different condition. The government must be very sensitive to these elements and try to see how it can play a good as a it can play a good role in a public and private policy making and all. So that, I think, is the macro perspective of what a government should be doing, vis-a-vis working closely with associations that runs businesses and all that, that has many associations to it. I think a dialogue must happen. It has to now come in to see, okay, I will flex some rules on certain elements and all that to ease and to stimulate businesses. Because the way I looked at it, I think Pakistan has a better chances of recovery, faster recovery than many countries. If
I'm keeping my fingers crossed. Yes,
Me too.
this is important for us. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I
thank you, Professor Nithya, for this very positive statement. And as Sarwat was also saying, I'm flashing this question here, Sarwat. See, the main aspect of the worry of the people would be: is it safe to travel? So, if we can take care of this worry, then perhaps we can revive. Over to Sarwat.
Yeah, I actually I read that question and I thought that people would like to know, because we get so many calls every day now that they want to come, they want to travel.
Yeah.
As soon as the lockdown is removed, I think even day before yesterday, there were 5 families who traveled from Karachi to Baltistan, and mashallah, they're all good and fine. They don't have any corona or anything. They are now settled in their houses. So that was just last week, and basically surface travel or traveling by plane, I think It's easy. It can be done. It's only 50 minutes flight. All you need to do is to make sure that you have all the precautions. You don't
Yeah.
eat food everywhere. You wear gloves, you wear masks, you use sanitizers every step of the way, and you can travel easily. It's not such a big deal. We get so many phone calls every day. I give this reply to so many guests every day. You can't believe it. It's a good thing that people are so optimistic. It's just not me, it's our people as well. They're so optimistic about it. And I think government needs to play a good role in it, because they need to establish hygienic restrooms all along the way, so that people use those hygienic restrooms and are at comfort and at ease. And the government has to ensure that they give proper training to the people who are providing the services all through the way while they're traveling by road, or even at the airports and everywhere. So government has to play a very important role in training people, in providing the hygienic restrooms and all those things. And I think it will be very easy. It will be just, it's a matter of time,
Yeah.
and we're good
Yeah.
to go. Yeah.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for giving us this optimism as well. We desperately need across the world, and so what I am looking at, that in all those countries where this internal tourism, as the Professor Nithya also said, that the bet is that internal tourism will rise first. So perhaps all those countries which have potential for internal tourism, with some smart strategies, with the help of public-private partnership, as Professor Nithya is saying, and as you are also highlighting, Sarwat, we will be in a better position to revive the industry. And the confidence building measures, as we are saying. Now, I can also share, some very exciting figures from you, with you guys. So when the first lockdown was eased there in China, so there is a brand called Hermes. There were literally 2.3 or 2.4 million dollar sales done in China only for Hermes, which means that people get bored. People got frustrated, so they wanted to come out. And of course, tourism industry, you don't need a lot of money for that, especially in Pakistan when you are traveling. But you want to come out, so we can keep our fingers crossed. Though apparently it seems that tourism industry will be hit very bad, especially in the context of Pakistan. But after talking to Sarwat and after listening to Professor Nithya, I'm hopeful actually that perhaps and you never know, the growth might go up. And I'm taking one question from here. It says that traveling not allowed for more persons by government. So actually, people wanted to come out. It's just the government which is restricting people. So the moment government will ease, these restrictions, I'm just speculating, Sarwat. Actually, there will be better, percentage of people of tourists coming to you guys. What do you say, Sarwat? What is your hunch about it? Yeah.
Well, can I just share a little truth over here?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
was also actually a little bit surprised that so many people came, 5 families arriving in GB just by road, and so we asked them, didn't anyone stop you? And they said, actually no, they were able to travel from GB without being stopped. So I mean, the restrictions are there, but I think at the same time, if you are traveling, I don't know. I mean, they were able to come, and every day people are coming in, and most of the people are traveling by road now because, for one thing, the flights are not regular at the moment, and is that it's easier. They're responsible for their own hygiene. They're not dependent on
Yeah,
anyone else.
yeah, yeah.
So yeah, so yeah, there is a restriction, but it doesn't seem to be firmly in place. That's all I can say.
Well, some people would say this is scary too,
Yeah,
because
scary.
this is
It's
scary
scary.
too. So just
It's
to
scary,
wrap
but I
up
think
our discussion. So guys, please remain safe. Maintain social distancing. We would like to go out. We would like to enjoy beautiful weather, the way Sabbath is enjoying there at GB. But we have to then develop our own strategy. So guys, what I've understood, we have to educate people. We have to educate our tourists. How can they how can they travel with a lot of safety in place? I think education is a very important part. As Professor Nithi and Savo was saying, government has to play its role, not only just by putting the regulations which are industry friendly, but also by giving the room and the space and education to the different stakeholders. And I think the thirdly, which is very important thing over here is again that we and this is across the globe. We all need to then join in our hands as well. And I think when the tourists are coming, I'm sure the businesses will be more open for in placing safety measures in their own hotels and in their restaurants, because by the end of the day, it's a win-win situation. If we can take care of this COVID-19, if we can really bring down the rate of this disease, then it's a win-win situation. Everybody would be happy. Hopefully, inshallah. So once again, guys, thank you for joining for this talk. I've learned a lot. And the best part is that we have ended up with optimism, which is desperately needed across the industry. And I'm sure my viewers have also enjoyed it. And we will come back on this place. Don't forget to join us next Saturday, and we will have another exciting talk. So take care of yourself and have a safe and pleasant day. Allah Hafiz.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.